Slurp my friends. I hope you're doing well. We're going to do a really quick little phase plant granular synthesis tutorial today. That was a mouthful. I won't keep much of your time. I'm going to just give you the precise formula on how I made this cool sound. Let's get into it. Sounds like this. Really like that change in rhythm, and the sound design made it sound to me at least a little bit like a pod racer from Star Wars. Anyway, that wasn't the exact intention when I started the sound. My intention was just to make a sound using granular synthesis, which has a nice amount of movement, and it wasn't too difficult to make at all, and I'm pretty sure you guys can recreate it yourself. All you need is phase plant, obviously, and so the whole sound, there's maybe three key parts to it, I suppose. The granular part, which is going to be creating all of that movement. That's also going to be added with a bit of white noise, and then all of that's going to feed through into a sine wave, or the granular part's going to feed through into a sine wave, and then the noise, the sine wave, which has been frequency modulated, plus having a nice movement for the granular synthesis, built into the sound as well. Then that's all just going to be run through some distortion, notch filtering, bit of chorus, a bit more distortion, and that's pretty much it. So let's start off with the granular part, because this is the most important part, obviously. And we'll start by having the gain up, how it normally is when you open it up. And so just opening up a granular generator, and I've selected the sample from the Simple Sound analog folder. It's the BS2 Big Round, and it's wonderful. It sounds like this. And we've already put some movement into it, okay? So how we've done that is we've used an LFO here, and I've drawn, it started off as a triangle pyramid kind of shape, but I've basically redesigned it a bit so I can get the speed just right. But it's sitting on two parameters, or three actually, on the granular generator. So it's sitting on the grains, and we're starting up at 1.34, and it's going to bring it down about 1.37, minus 1.37, and that's going to give you that. That's going to give you the fast grains to begin with, and then like the longer gaps between them as you go on, and also slightly changing the tone of them as well. I've also modulated this millisecond number up here, and that's like playing with the envelope of the individual grains. And the main movement is coming from modulating this one though, but I found that when I also modulated the sort of envelope, it kind of just sounded like it had a bit more variation to it as well. And for some further variation, I've changed the sample start point. So the sample start is somewhere here near the beginning. The whole file is quite similar, but by sweeping through the file using the granular synthesis like this, it does just like give you a different kind of selection of harmonics to work through always. So it will have a slightly different tone, which keeps it a bit more interesting. Anyway, this is nowhere near great or complete until it's gone through the sine wave. And so the semitones are up at 0 here, so it's quite high. But then the sine wave is a minus 24, nice and low. And then all we're going to do is select the output from here, run it into the phase position of the sine wave, turn it to the right. I've gone like, I think you can see 80 degrees there or something like that. Yeah, 80 degrees. Okay. So giving all of that juicy, interesting granular movement that we've made, feeding that into the sine wave. And once that's done, I can turn the gain setting off, so I don't actually have the original sound anymore. I just have the result of the combination from the FM between this original one and the new fat juicy sine wave. So it's just the combo, and that's how I like it really, because with that on, It's just extra harmonics that I didn't quite want because I still wanted to keep it fairly simple. And all I thought, that's going to sound pretty great once I distort it. I've set myself up for a nice juicy patch already, but I thought it'd be even better if I can get a bit of white noise on, and if I could get the white noise to follow the rhythm, that'd be even better. And I didn't actually know if it would work, but it kind of worked in the end. So basically I set up a white noise generator, put a high pass filter on, and by putting the output of the granular generator to the white noise, turning up 200% and having the starting level at 18, you can hear it actually seems to follow the granular pattern, and I couldn't tell you exactly how that has magically worked, but it is exactly what I wanted to happen, and it did happen, so I was very thankful. So because it's great to have that white noise texture, in the high end, but having it follow along with the rhythm that we've created is like bonus. That's even better. So the whole thing now, we can just add a bit of global unison. Is there a hair on the tongue? It's difficult to know sometimes, It's like, was that a hair, or am I imagining that? No, I'm just imagining that there's a hair on my tongue. Do not try to bend the spoon. Right, okay. Yeah, so global unison times 4, blend mode. Go like 15%, I will say. It's probably a bit more, actually. It's quite nice. Okay, so moving on to the most important parts then, like really just taking those ingredients that we've used and cooking them up with a load of distortion. And I've gone for the snus. So big up to snus. Snus has been awesome. It's a great preset. It's on the complex folder in the shaper, the new kind of distortion plugin. And the snus is very extreme. And I've actually turned down the drive all the way to the bottom. And it actually reads out to -6. And that can be quite crazy, because you would think that would be like turning it down. But actually at -6, it's heavily on still. It's heavily driving it. So the actual sort of number, I would just sort of completely ignore. When you've turned it on, even though the drive is down, it's still massively distorting it more than enough. And I've changed the modes here. Overflow mode to repeat. And it just had a slight better quality. I don't know if that'll be the case for every time you use the shaper, but this time I just thought I'd try the different modes, and repeat worked quite well. I'm sorry, my teeth, I'm coming out the end of this flu. Oh, okay. Anyway, non-linear filter next. Really get some shape into it, Much nicer with that on. Start to target that mid-range and give that some extra movement, so we have a bit more of a nice shape for the mids. And I've gone for the saturated mode. There was another mode which was the biased, which also sounded great. It's sort of the first part sounded really, really juicy. I could almost bounce out 2 versions and use the biased for the first part of the sound, and then the second part with the saturate. But the second part of the sound, where it almost feels like more of a lead coming up, that sounded really great with the saturate mode, so I left it on that. And just the main LFO, just one movement. iCloud storage is full. That's not important. Not now. Go away. I'm in the middle of a YouTube video, for goodness sake. Doesn't it? No. Anyway, the LFO pan, which I've so beautifully drawn. Thank you. Yeah, that's just moving the notch filter slightly, which is wonderful. And then the ensemble comes next. And this is it's basically chorusing, obviously, but it just sounds a bit better than the chorus. So I just like to use this. It's typically always good around 6 voices already, how it loads up. Sometimes I knock it down to 5. Doesn't make a big difference, but the idea is it will just add extra stereo width and everything. You know what it does. But I've mixed it off a little bit on the LFO. So it sort of starts with a bit more chorus on. Then when it gets to the fast sort of grainy bit, it gets a bit drier, because I quite like that part, like a bit more aggressive, So it's sort of chorus at the beginning. it sort of cleans up to be a bit drier halfway through as the LFO comes up. So knocking the mix back to the left to get that to happen, of course. Then the overdrive distortion, just to like, again, just saturate everything together. And I've just mixed this one in. I've left the drive on as it is, and the mix is just 40%. So it's a small bit of a push for the low end. Nice little push in the high end next with a little EQ shelf. And then finally a tiny little tail with a small control room, which is a great like short little convolution reverb with a tiny little tail to make it a bit more realistic, about 12%. And that's what I've labelled Sebulba's Pod Racer, but it could be any of your favourite Star Wars characters' pod racers, or it could just be a piece of sound design without a name. But I like to give things names because otherwise it would just be Untitled 76, wouldn't it? And then the MIDI pattern that I've done is just, as you can see here, in phase blunt, obviously. I've got the glide on 3 seconds, so quite a slow glide up and down, but that gives you this nice gliding down, almost as if the pod racer is like has done its big jump and it's slowly coming back to land like just in front of Anakin's head. At least that's how I imagine it. Sorry, I'm not quite with it yet still, but we'll get in there. Anyway, I think this sound is wicked. I hope you guys enjoyed that little tutorial. I hope it gives you some inspiration. I hope you could follow along. If not, I hope you can apply the same formula and really just toying with that idea of getting a nice fat sub-bass sine wave, finding something interesting with a nice granular like movement that sort of speeds up and slows down, running that through the output into the phase of the sine wave, potentially then turning off the actual granular generator so it's just a signal, and then actually adding a bit of white noise and running the output of that into the level of the white noise seems to be able to get the white noise to sort of follow the same pattern that you've set up rhythmically with the granular synthesis. So that's wicked. A little bit of chorusing with the unison just for everything to have a bit of extra stereo, nice movement that you can draw in, make it your own, and then just finding your favorite flavors of distortion and filtering to like take that sound from zero to hero essentially. And that was it really for today. Just a little bit of inspiration. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you guys want mastering, you can always email me info@artifactmusic.com. If you want to learn more about synthesis, I can offer that in my mentorship sessions as well. You can book in on my website for one-on-one sessions. And there are many phase plant and Vital preset packs on my website as well, should you want to download some to have a little go with yourself. Much appreciated. See you guys tomorrow. Take care.